Welcome those joining. Welcome to those joining. Say hello in the chat. Tell me how audio and video are. Welcome, Metika. Hello, Gregory. My energy is más o menos. If we have some Spanish-speaking friends, then they know what that means. Hello, Perennial Daydreams. Welcome. Dharma Learner. Welcome, Ethan. Visaka. We'll give it another couple of minutes and then we'll get started. Dharma Learner. I hope you're back to normal strength and routine. Even if I am, it'll only be for a short period of time. So it is what it is. Hello, Jay. Welcome. Give it another minute or so and then we'll get started. Well, we do have one friend watching on Facebook. So hello to whoever's watching on Facebook. Hey, Anthony. Welcome. Hello, Mikhail on Facebook. Welcome. All right. Why don't we get started? Let me share screen. That's interesting. The tab's not the tab for the what you call it? The Magaseka chanting book is not showing up. Oh, that's a first. Oh well. Well, I guess we'll do it like the old days. And I'll just chant it. So if you do have the Magaseka chanting book, we're on page 85. Uttana Sutta. Uttahatta nisidatta koato supinetavo supitenavo atura nanhika nidda salaviddana rupatang uttahatta nisidatta dalhang sikkatta santiya mavo pamatte vinyaya machwaraja amohitaya vasangunuge Yaya deva manusa cha sitta tittanti attika tara te tang visattikang kanovo ma upajjaga kana tita hi sochanti niramahi samapita pamado rajo pamado pamadanunupetito rajo Upamadena Vijaya Abade Salamatanoti. All right, English. Wake up. Make an effort. Get up and sit. What need of sleep? For the sick, what rest is there, pierced by the arrow of pain? Get up and sit. Train hard for peace. Let not Mara know that you are negligent, deluded, and under his control. Cross beyond this craving, tied to desiring which gods and men remain. Don't let this chance pass by. Those who do so grieve, sending themselves to hell. From dust arises negligence, from negligence to more. By diligence and knowledge, pluck out the arrow oneself. Sadhu, sadhu. All right. Welcome, Yankee and Jay. So, friends, it is Monday night, so that means it is time for another 2-hour festival of Dhamma with the Magaseka community, Dhammapalooza. So we've done some chanting. Later, we'll do some meditation. And who knows what we will do during this 2-hour session. Because every Dhammapalooza is not prescripted. It is guided by both myself and all the community members here, everybody who's joining with us. So now is your chance to have a hand in guiding how tonight will go. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. If you have any topics you'd like me to talk about, like a little Dhamma talk or something like that, you can put the topics in the chat. If you have a topic that you'd like the community to discuss together, we can also do that. And worst comes to worst, if nobody wants to say anything, we can read suttas. Maybe we'll do some sutta roulette today. We'll see how things go. So for the next couple of minutes, I'll keep an eye on the chat and see if anybody has questions, Dhamma talk topics, etc. And we'll move on from there. Dharma Learner has sort of a question. Will you be the abbot when you are at Empty Cloud this upcoming visit? No, I am not an abbot anywhere at any time. At least not yet. This is part of my growing monastery babysitting business. If you need me to come run your place and do most of your teachings for a month or two, call me. Because that seems to be what's happening, right? Because I'm going next couple months going to be busy. So I'm going to Empty Cloud this Sunday until the 4th, where I leave for California, and then to the end of April, I'm in California and then Colorado, and then I'm back for uh, April 29th to June 11th. I'm going to be at Empty Cloud, taking care of the place while Banta and I are gone in Italy, and then right after, I'm going to leave right from them and get on a plane and go down to North Carolina, and I'm going to take care of Aya Sudama's place, and do her teachings, and actually we're going to try to do our best to mix my teachings and her teachings together, so I don't have to do so much. It's quite a lot. Like my own sessions do suffer when I stay at somebody else's place, because there's just so much. It's not like the old days where I was like one of two people that did live streams. Now everybody does. So it's quite exhausting to do both all of my normal things that I do and all of everybody else's too. But that's what I'm doing until end of July, and then I don't know what the heck I'm doing after that. So. Bhavani, good to see you. It's been a while. Glad to see you joining us today. How to practice Kanti. Kanti paramang tapotittika. Patient endurance is the best practice. So how do we practice it? Little by little. Endurance is not easy. Okay? Well, this is the thing. For most of us, trying to sit for a half hour is a test of endurance, especially when we're new, right? When we're new. If we're doing it for many years, it gets a little bit easier. But for most people in the beginning, that's a huge test of endurance to sit for a half hour. Not get up, not be itching all over, not be, moving around. We have to start small and be okay with enduring things. How long can we endure this itch? How long can we endure this pain? How long can we endure somebody saying something to us that we don't like? You want to practice patient endurance? If you have a political or religious leaning, listen to people in opposite political or religious leanings. See how long you last. Right? And then maybe in the beginning, it's like 2 seconds. But then over time, you can sit with it more. Sitting with unpleasant experiences is practicing Kanti. Right? The Buddha says, my disciples endure cold, hot, rain, gadflies, insults, etc. This is not something easy to do. It takes wisdom and practice to be able to endure longer, to endure. And really what you're doing, why the Buddha wants you to endure is so that you don't act unskillfully. If you're able to endure something and be mindful of it, then you're less likely to act on impulse, right? Less likely to react unskillfully to the situation. So patient endurance is a beneficial practice for you and everybody you're ever going to come into contact with. To patiently endure whatever it is you do not like. It's a very, very wonderful, good practice. It's not a coincidence that the Ovada Patimokkha, this like daily reminder that the Buddha would give to monastics in the early days, you have in there patient endurance is the best practice. Not a coincidence at all. Risaka has a question. I was wondering about ghosts. A Buddhist practitioner told me they are attracted to dirt, filth, clutter, for example. He said it's very important to keep one's home clean, otherwise ghosts can inhabit the space. Can you comment? Oops. Never heard of it, such a thing. I don't know. Um, it kind of gives it kind of the first thing that came to my head was that old saying, cleanliness is next to godliness. So maybe if you keep everything clean, the devas come and hang out. And if you keep everything messy, the yakas come. I don't know. I've never heard of this before. Although they're not yaka, yet devas and yakas are not petas. The petas are ghosts. So yeah, no, I've never heard of such a thing before. Obviously, it seems like some kind of something that has developed over time. Where it came from, I can't even think of a like a sutta reference or something where something like that possibly might have come from. I don't know. I wonder if it was one of those things where whatever culture this came from, this was kind of part of like the old culture, right? When Buddhism came in, and then that was kind of added to Buddhism, which is something you see very common if you study like how Christianity, various different religions grow. You will see that kind of mix of the old religion and the new religion. But otherwise, I have, I don't know. Just looking at the chat. So perennial daydreams has more of a comment than a question, but it's pretty good. It's good to kind of share. I normally meditate the same amount of time daily, and I think my body can tell when it's almost time. Yeah. And when you become real, like if you like do my guided meditations, like how that little scanning thing in the beginning, if you do that enough, you will know. Like I know when I've been sitting a half hour. I know exactly the pains, where they arise, how does it feel like, right? So when you really pay attention to your body and your posture, then you will know without a doubt. Um, and that can be a blessing and a curse, for sure, because it depends on your mindset. My body can tell. Well, it's your mind can tell when when it's almost time, and then it starts to feel impatient. Maybe you start to open one eye because you want to look at the clock, see what time it is. Are we there yet? Is it time yet? Yeah, this is enduring. Being able to endure when at that point. Um, what I developed doing was, um, This was years ago, and I still use it every once in a while. It depends on if I am in a place where there's a prominent clock where I'm meditating, um, and also how I'm doing with my meditation. But what I would do is, the minute I kind of noted that, like, I wanted to look at the clock, like I wanted it to, because that's a sign that you're like, either you're excited, maybe I meditated for like 45 minutes and it just went by like that, and that's a good thing, or you're like, oh, how much time do I have left? Right? Every time you look at the clock, it's suffering. Don't look at the clock. But I would do is, it's like, okay, I can feel the pressure, I can feel the desire, the impulse to look at the clock. And then I say 3 more times. So I give myself that rise of impulse and pressure to look at the clock to come up 3 more times. And on the third time, I'll look at the clock, fully knowing that I'm going to cause myself suffering, but at least I'm enduring it a little more. At least I'm kind of saying, okay, listen, X more times, then we'll look. And then I can just go back. And then my mind actually starts to calm down. It actually works pretty good. A good chunk of the time, I never get to that, like the 3 times. A good chunk of the time is like, yeah, okay, we're just chill. And then the bell rings and we're done. But being able to endure and kind of giving yourself that, talking to yourself and saying, okay, I know you want to look 3 more times. Right? I will say that I'm much better enduring patience during meditation than when I'm dealing with other people. Well, this is easy. You are, how shall I say, you are imparting intention onto those other people. You're taking what those other people do personally. So it's a different level. Right? People can feel like a tsunami or a hurricane is a travesty. Very few people are like screaming at the sky or you're like yelling at God. It's like, oh, this is how it is. But if there's a person behind something that happens, then it really riles us up. It's not something that we not something that we can patiently endure. I don't think this is a question, but oh, okay. Well, yeah, it is kind of. I'm gonna clear my throat real quick. This is my trusty water bottle that I've had since I've been a monk, like 6 or 7 years. I've never put anything but regular water in it, and it's gone well with me in all kinds of other places. To take Ajahn Chah's line, even a water bottle can be a friend. All right. So I've been watching Venerable Dhammo's explanation of the Buddhist cosmology. Oh, there was that series with Ajahn Sona. I love that series. It's about maybe like 9 or 10 months ago. I think I listened to that series. I don't take them literally, but I find the stories interesting and more productive than worldly stories. Useful. Yeah. It's important. Even like the Jataka tales. This is why, like, you might hear me like rail on, like, well, that's not from the suttas. But if it's a story, I don't I don't rail on it. because it's just a story. It's not really. Now, somebody could say, well, Bante, all the suttas, they're all just stories. It's all just made up, whatever. Yeah, okay, maybe. I don't know. I don't believe it. Especially because when you read all of it, you see like there's a big difference between what looks like to be a narrative, like a written down of a teaching and a story. Um, but however people want to believe it. So I still think it is important for a variety of reasons to at least have an open mind on the Buddhist cosmology, Devas, Nagas, and Yakas, Omai, and all this stuff. I think it's important to keep an open mind. It's also important to not close your mind off when you're practicing metta. Keep your metta mind, keep it open and limitless like it's supposed to be, even if you don't necessarily believe that there might be beings. Even when we go out into the universe with our metta, usually, wow, who knows if there's aliens? We don't know. It doesn't matter. Just keep your mind open. Keep your metta limitless. Don't limit your metta in any way. Right? Not in any way. Now, the Buddha doesn't teach this. You don't see this in the suttas, but I go the extra mile of, in my own experience, I have noticed that I can have ill will towards not inanimate objects. So I don't even limit my metta for inanimate objects. I don't limit my metta at all. If I see that I am limiting my metta, which I haven't seen for many years, to be honest with you, then I say, okay, no, well, we're going to open it. We're going to go against this, and we're going to open up the metta. So there's a lot of good reasons, I think, for not dismissing the cosmology, even the stories. Like the Jataka tales and things like that. There could sometimes be really good stuff in there. Like the stories that come from the commentaries, like some of the Dhammapada stories. Some of them are kind of wacky. You kind of like, well, how does this connect to the Dhammapada verse? And is this even worth, what value is this? And some of them are, what, this is pretty interesting, actually. I kind of like this. So yeah, don't close, keep an open mind and, see where the practice leads you. Michael G. Hello, Michael. Have you been on our sessions before or not? I don't know if I know this name. So if you're new, well, welcome. If not, maybe it's been a while. So good to see you. Either way. I've been really bad about resisting meditation and not wanting to do it. Any suggestions to get back into a regular practice that has been neglected for some time? Start small. Don't push yourself too hard. Start small, baby steps. Try to make your practice consistent daily, not lengthwise daily. I mean, don't worry about how long you're meditating. Just try to sit down, even if it's in the beginning, it's only for 5 or 10 minutes. Just try to sit. Just try to set that time. And you have to also think about the time of day, the location. Sometimes a place and a time kind of click, and it makes it easier for you to do something consistently. So fiddle with the time. Is it better to do it in the morning, after work, lunch break? Practice. Try out different times, different places, whatever, to see if you can get it to stick. But definitely don't worry too much about how long you're meditating. Just try to do your best to build it up and make it a habit to do it every day. And then the length of time you meditate will come from there. Not wanting to meditate is always going to be part of your path. You're always going to go in cycles with that. I still do it. I mean, I've been doing this thing next, well, 2 years. It'll be 20 years since I've been meditating, right? And there's still definitely times where I'm like, yeah, I don't feel like doing this. But even if I do kind of, well, even if my sitting meditation falls behind, my mindfulness practice is kind of always there. Um, so I trained it so that really I'm always practicing in one way or another, even if it's at a very, very low level. Um, but where was I going with this? I lost my train of thought. Oh, to get back in the regular practice. Yeah, yeah. Okay, now I remember. Yeah. So you should expect that there's going to be times where you don't want to meditate. Try to do your best to sit anyway. And even if it's for like a quarter of the time you normally do it, if you sat down, it's a victory. You count that as a victory. Hey, I went against Mara at least up to this much. Mara got me at this point. It's okay. Hey, at least I sat. Right? Because when you're doing that, you're holding ground. Right? That is part of building up a habit. You sat. Boom. And every day, if all you do is just sit for a minute and then you get back up, well, you're still training yourself. This time, this place, I sit. And that grows from there. So if you understand and accept that there's going to be times you're going to meditate, and it's not because you're a bad meditator or you did something wrong, it's just the up and down cycle. And that'll make it easier for you to say, okay, I don't feel like it. Let me just sit anyway. Let me do some walking meditation. Let me do this meditation, that meditation, whatever it is. Right? And then you'll be able to overcome that gradually and slowly. Anthony says, have you ever done the sitters practice? Anthony, you know me well enough to know this is a silly question for me. Of course not. No, there's no way that I would ever that I really could always do. I'm just gonna sit. Um, I mean, maybe if I could get up and do walking meditation, I could do something like this. But no, I know like there's like you go on these like Tibetan 3-year retreats where you never lie down and things like that, and they have a little booth for you. I've seen videos of it. They have a little booth, and that's where you don't even have a bed. You just have a booth, and this is where you do your thing. Um, and that's something that's ever interested me. I've pushed myself in other ways. I've kind of tested my limits and pushed myself in other ways. But for me, it's you know the not lying down thing. No, I'm gonna if I'm tired and I want to go to bed, I'm gonna lie down. No, this is just in on the path. Different people take different kind of what in Thai force they would call adhitanas, right? Like like vows to do something a bit more ascetic than the normal. And there's a wide variety of those things, and it works for some. One works for some people, another works for others. Gregor says there's a new translation by Bhikkhu Bodhi of the Samyutta Nikaya. Really? Why would he redo the whole Samyutta Nikaya again? Are you talking about the Sutta Nipata? I think you know enough for what you're talking about to know the difference. But I'm quite surprised that he would do another Samyutta Nikaya. I mean, that's a huge thing. I mean, I guess maybe Samyutta Nikaya was one of those where he wasn't the full translator, like the Digha Nikaya as well. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'm quite surprised about that. What makes the Samyutta Nikaya collection unique versus the others? I have mentioned led the SN several times. I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm gonna go and assume that you've heard me talk about how, like, uh, if I only could take one book of the Buddhist teachings, on a desert island, or if it was like the end of the world and I was like that book of Eli, or I was like a wandering Buddhist monk of the of the post-apocalyptic wastes, and I had the book, it would be the Samyutta Nikaya. There's no doubt. I wouldn't even think twice. And the reasons for that is, if you read all of the suttas, you really start to see how, like, all of the major teachings, some of you wouldn't even be, you'd be surprised to, but like, so many of the major teachings are repeated in the Samyutta Nikaya. Like some of the major stuff from Majjhima Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya, all those, like, you'll find it in the Samyutta Nikaya. So you won't, if you chose only that one book, you wouldn't miss out on the Buddhist teachings. It's all there. Now, maybe it's not as flushed out. And this is one of the reasons why some people posit that the Samyutta Nikaya is probably the oldest of the Nikayas. Because you read it, um, there's not a lot of the story, the narrative that goes along with it. Some scholars will say, like, the whole, like, thus have I heard at one time the Buddha was staying at Savatthi, blah blah blah. Like, that's all added later, and it could be, right. It's possible it could be, because if you look at the Samyutta Nikaya, for about maybe 70% of the suttas in the Samyutta Nikaya, none of that exists. It's just the teaching. Sometimes it's hard to tell who's talking to who, especially in the beginning of the Samyutta Nikaya in the verses. Um, but you'll see, like, it's very bare bones, just straight teaching, and it's really of the four Nikayas, it's definitely not the easiest read. And I mean, admittedly, it might have been the hardest read for me. And the reason being is because it'll be one topic for 100 pages. And if you're reading the whole thing, I mean, you're just going through repetition. You're going through hundreds of lines of repetition to get one line of something new, right? And that can be exhausting, even to somebody who loves the suttas. Right? I mean, I had been studying the suttas. By the time I got to the Samyutta Nikaya, reading it, you know, line by line, I had been reading suttas probably close to 9 years, 8, 9 years maybe. So I wasn't a newbie at it, but it did get kind of like, I was like, okay, we just got to get back. We got to get through this section, then we'll have something new. Um, so I wouldn't say that it's like, we have another question here. Um, Perennial asks, which Nikaya would you recommend to somebody starting to dig into sutta studies? Not the Samyutta Nikaya. um, you know, I would say, actually, I would probably maybe say the Sutta Nipata, right? Some of these smaller books in the Kudaka Nikaya. So, like the Itivutika, the Udana, the Tari and Taragata, the Dhammapada, the Sutta Nipata. They're kind of small. A lot of them are very versy. You know, those are kind of like easier to digest for newbies a lot. Um, in terms of the main four Nikayas, yeah, I would go with Majjhima Nikaya. Um, just because it does have that kind of narrative to it. You know, the suttas are very like flushed out, so it's a bit easier to follow. Um, so yeah, I would go with Majjhima Nikaya on that question. Oh, it's an anthology. All right, okay. So it's not the full Samyutta Nikaya. This makes a lot more sense now. Okay. So yeah, he probably. I mean, he did. The Anguttara Nikaya came out. His Anguttara Nikaya translation came out, I think, right before I moved to the monastery to become a monastic. It's like 2013. I went to the monastery 2014. The Samyutta Nikaya, I think, came out 2009, maybe. So, so it's an anthology. All right. Yeah, in the Buddha's words is probably really like um, the best kind of like hold your hands sutta book. It really is, because it really Bante Bodhi really takes this like a huge like a list of topics that are all about the Buddhist teachings and goes through the suttas and then gives commentary on them, because that's the most important thing. It's really hard to read the suttas without any kind of guidance, without any kind of background. So having um, somebody like Bante Bodhi be able to uh, kind of make this anthology, put it all together, put it under topics, and then you see the suttas, and then you get a little explanation of it. That's invaluable. I had that book in the Buddha's words. I remember that book. So this is a new anthology. That's good. I'll have to check it out one of these days. Oh, we skipped Joy. Joy has an interesting question. What is your reason for starting a monastery instead of staying at Bhavana or other established places? Well, it depends on the person. It depends on, what they want to do with their monastic life. It depends on their proclivities, their tendencies, their training in lay life, things like that. And I think what it stems from is wanting to grow the Dhamma in America, right? And as I was getting into Buddhism, I started to, some of the monastics who I consider to be like, teachers of mine, so who I learned from, like Ajahn Brahm, Bhante Gunaratana, Ajahn Chah, right? These are all monks who basically started their own places. And I thought, well, like I felt like, and I love listening to the stories of like the struggles in the beginning and like the kind of building this thing up from nothing and it being such a benefit to so many people. Right, Bhavana was such a huge benefit to me. It's been a benefit to many thousands of people. Um, so I wanted to kind of be the next generation of following in their footsteps. And I wanted to. I remember I asked Bhante Ji. I said, Bhante Ji, how come there's no like Bhavana Society of California, Bhavana Society? Like how Ajahn Chah does, like uh, Watt of Ajahn Chah lineage of such and such, right? Ajahn Chah really did to me. Ajahn Chah did it the best way, right? He's like, okay, he had monks with him. They got to like 10 years. He says he sees that they're all attached to him. He kicks them out. He says, go back to your home country and make a monastery, or go to this country and make a monastery. Right? That's for the benefit of so many people. This is a wonderful thing. And so I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that next generation that grows. Well, Bhavana already exists. All these other places already exist. There's lots of fertile ground for new places. Right? It's not like there's a huge competition. It's not like, oh well, I'm gonna hurt these other monasteries by starting my own. No, there's way more demand than there is supply. And honestly, I mean, it's kind of shooting. It's shooting for the stars. It's a bit ambitious, but I hope, if I get to live long enough and it actually works, I hope that by the time I die or what else, whoever know, who knows if I become awake in this lifetime or not, that there will be many monasteries. I would like that there to be a bunch of different monasteries in America, not just one. So I forgot. I didn't tell the story because when I asked Bante, how come there's not multiple Bhavanas? And he says, Jayasara, we are not expansionists. And I said, Bante, I'm from this country. I want this country to grow in the Dhamma. I'm an expansionist. So I want to expand, and the more the merrier. The more opportunities for people to be able to hear the Dhamma, to practice the Dhamma, to meet fellow Dhamma friends. So yeah, this is I would like more Buddhist monks to start more places. That's my that's my opinion in this matter. All right. Well, it looks like the chat is quiet now, so I've caught up on everything. Why don't we do some Nikai roulette Nikaya Samyutta roulette? I think we should do that. Let's go to the Sutta Nikaya. Samyutta Nikaya. Link discourse. What's going on here? Home. Basket. Okay. Hmm. Oh, he's put the PDF down. Oh, okay. I was wondering. That's new. All right. Share screen. All right. So, for those of you who've not played Sutta Roulette, this is how it works. Sutta Roulette is a really good thing because, for one, it gives us a wide variety of random sutta, so we don't know what the topic's going to be. We don't know, um, what's going to come up. So that's fun about it. And also, it because I can share the screen and we go over it, it can give somebody who's new to the suttas a better understanding of how to navigate the suttas, and especially on a website like Sutta Central. So how this is going to work is there's 57 groupings. There's 57 samyuttas in the Samyutta Nikaya, and I'm going to ask for a number between 1 and 57. And then everybody who's actually here and who's listening and who's going to take part, you can type a number in the chat. And the first number that comes up will be the samyutta that we go through. And then I'm going to ask for another number, probably between 1 and 100. And then same process. And then we'll have the two numbers. We'll go to that sutta and we'll read it. Nice and easy. So, and I'm going to count down. This is a countdown to typing the number, not so that people. And if we keep getting the same person getting first, because maybe they have really good internet or something, then I'll choose the second person. But that hasn't happened too often as we've been doing this. So a number between 1 and 57 in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, Jay comes in with a 40. Let's see what the 40th Samyutta is. So on here, so let's, I'll show it to you from the beginning so you guys can see. So we're in this is the main page, Sutta Central, the basket of discourses, that's the suttas. Then Samyutta Nikaya, you see here, you see the Pali under here, Digha, Majjhima, Samyutta, Anguttara. So Samyutta Nikaya. And then the top one is always going to be the Pali in English. There's going to be the Agamas from the Mahayana under it. So, but the top one is always going to be the Pali. So you click on that. And so now we have various groups that the 57 Samyutta are grouped in. And they don't have the numbers, unfortunately, but 40, I'm going to guess, is probably in the Salayatana Vagga. Yes. All right. No, wait a second. What am I doing? No, I was right. Yeah. Linked discourses of Moggallana. Ah, all right, because this is just a small Samyutta Nikaya, Samyutta. I don't know. Let's see, how many? There's 10. These are usually pretty small, though, aren't they? Yeah. So I'm not going to do a second one. I'm just going to go through these because they're really small. They're like the size of sometimes. These are going to be the size of even a small sutta. Lots of repetition. So let's go through. A question about the first jhana. This one's a bit bigger, but then the other ones repeat. So, one time Venerable Mahamoggallana was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. There, Venerable Mahamoggallana addressed the mendicants. Reverends, mendicants. Reverend, they replied. Venerable Mahamoggallana said this. Just now, reverends, as I was in private retreat, this thought came to my mind. They speak of this thing called the first jhana. What is the first jhana? It occurred to me. It's when a mendicant, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unskillful qualities, enters and remains in the first jhana, which has the rapture and bliss born of seclusion, while placing the mind and keeping it connected. This is called the first jhana. And so I was entering and remaining in the first jhana. While I was in that meditation, perceptions and attentions, accompanied by sensual pleasures, beset me. Then the Buddha came up to me with his psychic power and said to him, Moggallana, Moggallana, do not neglect the first jhana, Brahmin. Settle your mind in the first jhana. Unify your mind and immerse it in the first jhana. And so after some time I entered and remained in the first jhana. So if anyone should be rightly called a disciple who has attained to great direct knowledge with help from the teacher, it's me. And so this is going to be, I suspect this is probably going to go through the 4 jhanas and the 4 arupa attainments. Let's see how it goes. They speak of a thing called second jhana. What is second jhana? It occurred to me, as the placing of the mind and keeping it connected are stilled, a mendicant enters and remains in the second jhana, which has the rapture and bliss born of immersion, with internal clarity and confidence and unified mind, without placing the mind and keeping it connected. This is called the second jhana. And so I was entering and remaining in the second jhana. While I was in that meditation, perceptions and attentions accompanied by placing the mind beset me. Then the Buddha came up to me with his psychic powers and said, do not neglect the second jhana. Unify the mind and immerse it. And so after some time, I entered and remained in the second jhana. So if anyone should be said, a disciple who attained great knowledge, for with the help from the teacher, it's me. Or direct knowledge. Oh, no, attained to great direct knowledge. A question about the third jhana. So you can see here, this is a very small section. Shin, welcome. Yeah, the time change happened here on the east coast of America. So that's what happened. Yeah. Did they do daylight savings over in China? I know some places do and some places don't. Even some states here in America don't do it. All right. A question about the third jhana. They speak of a thing called the third jhana. What is the third jhana? It occurred to me. With the fading away of rapture, a mendicant enters and remains in the third jhana, where they meditate with equanimity, mindful and aware, personally experiencing the bliss of which the noble ones declare. Equanimous and mindful, one meditates in bliss. This is called the third jhana. As I was entering and remaining, I was beset. The Buddha came up to me with his psychic power and says, do not neglect the third jhana. Unify your mind and immerse it in the third jhana. And so after some time, I entered and remained in the third jhana. So if anyone should rightly say, called the disciple who attained great direct knowledge with help from the teacher, it's me. Question about the fourth jhana. They speak of this thing called fourth jhana. What is the fourth jhana? It occurred to me, it's when giving up pleasure and pain and ending former happiness and sadness, a mendicant enters and remains in the fourth jhana, without pleasure or pain, with pure equanimity and mindfulness. This is called the fourth jhana. And so I was entering and remaining in the fourth jhana while I was in that meditation. Perceptions and attentions accompanied by pleasure beset me. Then the Buddha came up to me with a psychic power and said, "Do not neglect the fourth jhana, settle your mind." And after some time I entered and remained in the fourth jhana. So if anyone should be rightly called a disciple, it is me. Here we go. Now into the arupa attainments. And if you want to know why it's wrong to call them jhanas, all you have to do is look at the Pali. They're not called jhanas. If they were jhanas, they would use the word jhana. A sphere or a stage. Yeah. Okay. A question about the dimension of infinite space. They speak of this thing called the dimension of infinite space. What is the dimension of infinite space? It occurred to me it's when a mendicant going totally beyond perceptions of form, with the ending of perceptions of impingement, not focusing on perception of diversity, aware that space is infinite, enters or remains in the dimension of infinite space. This is called the dimension of infinite space. And so as I was entering and remaining, meditation and perceptions and intentions accompanied by forms beset me. Then the Buddha came up to me with a psychic power and said, the other thing that's changing, other than the between the jhanas and the attainment, it's what is coming to mind that is taking you out of that state is changing. So pay close attention to that. Perceptions and intentions accompanied by form beset me. Then the Buddha came up to me with a psychic power and said, "Do not neglect the sphere. Unify your mind and immerse it in it." And so sometime I entered and remained in the dimension of infinite space. And it would be me. All right. Question about the dimension of infinite consciousness. This is another one of those things where like you can feel like impressed, like, whoa, I read 60 suttas today, and it really only took you like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because each of those suttas towards the end of the Nikaya, towards the end of the Samyutta, is all just lots of repetition. So they speak of this thing called the dimension of infinite consciousness. What is the dimension of infinite consciousness? It occurred to me. It's when a mendicant going totally beyond the dimension of infinite space, aware that consciousness is infinite, enters and remains in the dimension of infinite consciousness. This is called the dimension of infinite consciousness. And so I was entering and remaining in that state. As I was, perceptions and attentions accompanied by the dimension of infinite space beset me. So, the level below, infinite space, came and took them away. Then the Buddha came up to me and said, "Do not neglect the dimension of infinite consciousness. Settle your mind." And after some time I did. It is me who the teacher helped. Dimension of nothingness. They speak of this thing called the dimension of nothingness. What is the dimension of nothingness? It occurred to me. It's when a mendicant goes totally beyond the dimension of infinite consciousness, aware that there is nothing at all, enters and remains in the dimension of nothingness. This is called the dimension of nothingness. And so I was entering and remaining in the dimension of nothingness while I was in that state. Perceptions and attentions accompanied by the dimension of infinite consciousness beset me, the one before this. Then the Buddha came up to me with a psychic power and said, "Moggallana, do not neglect this. unify your mind. And after some time I did. And so it's rightly called the disciple who was helped by the teacher. Dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. They speak of this thing called the dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. What is the dimension of neither perception nor non-perception? It occurred to me. It's when a mendicant, going totally beyond the dimension of nothingness, enters and remains in the dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. This is called the dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. And so I was entering and remaining in the dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. While I was in that meditation, perceptions and attentions accompanied by the previous state, dimension of nothingness beset me. The Buddha came up to me with his psychic powers. Do not neglect. After some time, I entered and remained in this, and I am one who the teacher helped. So now we've gone through the four jhanas and the four arupa attainments. Now we have something different. It's interesting. The animitta. So nimitta is a sign. Right? Nimitta in the early texts, in the suttas, is not what came later, what you see in like the Abhidhamma, maybe it's the Abhidhamma, but the Visuddhimagga definitely, where it's described or it's attributed to this light that arises before you get into jhanas. But the nimitta in the suttas is basically just a sign, right? If you've ever, hear where it says the Buddha is talking about sense restraint and not getting wrapped up in signs and features, nimitta, that's the sign. So this is a signless because it's animitta. They speak of this thing called signless immersion of the mind. What is the signless immersion of the mind? It occurred to me. It's when a mendicant, not focusing on any signs, enters and remains in the signless immersion of the mind. This is called the signless immersion of the mind. And so I was entering and remaining in the signless immersion of the mind. While I was in that meditation, my consciousness followed after signs. Then the Buddha came up to me with his psychic power and said, Moggallana, do not neglect the signless immersion of the mind. Now, this might be the only place in the suttas where you have this signless immersion of the mind. Even if it is in other places, maybe one or two others. This is a very rare thing. Actually, I don't know if I've ever heard a monastic speak on this, so I don't even necessarily know exactly what it means. I have a gist. It's literally the mind not attaching to any signs, anything that's arising. So I could probably riff on that, but this is not something that you see very often. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the only sutta in the suttas that has this, but probably not. There's probably at least in one or two other places, I bet. While I was in that meditation, my consciousness followed after signs. Then the Buddha came up to me with his psychic powers. Do not neglect the signless immersion of the mind. Set your mind on the signless immersion of the mind. And so after some time I did, and know me as one who the teacher helped. With Saka, king of the gods. And then Venerable, this is a long one. Okay, I don't think we're gonna, okay, it's just the Pali that's long. All right. And then Venerable Mahamoggallana, as easily as a strong person would extend or contract their arm, vanished from Jeta's grove and reappeared among the gods of the 33. This one's for Gregory and his question about the cosmology from before. Then Saka, lord of the gods, with 500 deities, came up to Mahamoggallana, bowed, and stood to one side. Mahamoggallana said to him, Lord of gods, it's good to go for refuge to the Buddha. It's the reason why some sentient beings, when their body breaks up after death, are reborn in a good place, a heavenly realm. It's good to go for refuge to the teaching. It's the reason why some sentient beings, when their body breaks up after death, are reborn in a good place, a heavenly realm. It's good to go for refuge to the Sangha. It's the reason why some sentient beings, when their body breaks up after death, are reborn in a good place, a heavenly realm. My good Moggallana, it's good to go for refuge to the Buddha, the teaching, and the Sangha. It's the reason why some sentient beings, when their body breaks up after death, are reborn in a good place. Then Saka, Lord of the Gods, with 600 deities, with 700 deities, with 800 deities, with 80,000 deities. Looks like repeated that same thing. So this is just the repeating what we just said. Okay. So it's going to be just more and greater amounts of beings here. Then Sakar, Lord of the Gods, with 500 deities, came up to Moggallana, bowed and stood to one side. Moggallana said to him, Lord of Gods, it's good to have experiential confidence in the Buddha. Experiential confidence. What is Bhante Sujato translating as experiential confidence? There you go. Trust founded in knowledge. So this is a trust that has arisen in the Buddha based on following the teachings and seeing the correctness of his teachings. That blessed one is perfected, fully awakened Buddha, accomplished in knowledge and conduct, holy, knower of the world, supreme guide for those who wish to train, teacher of gods and humans, awakened and blessed. It's the reason why some sentient beings, when their body breaks up after death, are reborn in a good place, a heavenly realm. It's good to have experiential confidence in the teachings. The teaching is well expounded by the Buddha, apparent in this present life, immediately effective, inviting inspection, relevant, so that sensible people can know it for themselves. It's the reason why some sentient beings, when their body breaks up after death, are reborn in a good place, a heavenly realm. It's good to have experiential confidence in the Sangha. The Sangha of the Buddha's disciples is practicing the way that's good, direct, methodical, and proper. It consists of the 4 pairs, the 8 individuals. This is the Sangha of the Buddha's disciples that is worthy of offerings dedicated to the gods, worthy of hospitality, worthy of religious donation, worthy of greeting with joined palms, and is the supreme field of merit for the world. It's the reason why some sentient beings, when their body breaks up after death, are reborn in a good place, a heavenly realm. It's good to have the ethical conduct that's loved by the noble ones, unbroken, impeccable, spotless, and unmarred, liberating, praised by sensible people, not mistaken, and leading to immersion. It's the reason why some sentient beings, when their body breaks up after death, are reborn in a good place, a heavenly realm. My good Moggallana, it's good to have experiential confidence in the Buddha, the teaching, the Sangha, and to have ethical conduct that's loved by the noble ones. It's the reason why some sentient beings, when their body breaks up, are reborn in a good place. Then Saka, Lord of the Gods, with 600, 700, 800, 80,000 deities, repeated the same thing. Then Saka, Lord of the Gods, with 500 deities, came up to Moggallana, bowed to one side. Moggallana said to them, Lord of Gods, it's good to go for refuge to the Buddha. It's the reason why some go to a heavenly realm. They surpass other gods in 10 respects. Divine lifespan, beauty, happiness, glory, sovereignty, sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and touches. It's good to go for refuge to the teaching. It's good to go for refuge to the Sangha. It's the reason why some, after the body breaks up, go to a heavenly realm. They surpass other gods in 10 respects: divine lifespan, beauty, happiness, glory, sovereignty, sight, sound, smells, tastes, and touches. My good Moggallana, it's good to go for refuge to the Buddha. Then Saka Lord of the Gods with 600, 700, 800, 80,000. Repeated that. Then Saka Lord of the Gods with 500 deities came up to Moggallana, bowed. Lord of the Gods, it's good to have experiential confidence in the Buddha. It's the reason why some go to a heavenly realm. They surpass the other gods in 10 respects. Same 10. It's good to have experiential confidence in the teaching and the Sangha. It's good to have ethical conduct loved by the noble ones. My good Moggallana, it's good to have experiential confidence in the Buddha, repeating the same thing with up to 80,000 deities. And that's that. And all the other gods repeat the same thing. And that's the end of the Samyutta, the 40th Samyutta. Because now, in the next one, we're into the 41st Samyutta. All right. Jay is bringing up that Bhante Suraso has equated this to Shikantaza in Zen Buddhism. I actually, now that you bring that up, I do remember hearing him talk about that in the past. Yeah. All right. So why don't we do meditation, and then we'll close out with some Dhammapada verses and business and call it a night. Close your eyes. Set your body up in a comfortable and stable position that works for you. We'll start scanning through the body, starting with the feet, moving up to the head. And as we move through the body, place your focus and attention on whatever feeling and sensation arises in that part of the body. Investigate it deeply and try to understand it as best you can. Place your focus on your feet, connecting with any sensation, feeling that's arising there. Moving up through the ankles into the calves. While you're doing this scanning, if you have trouble connecting with any sensation, you can prompt yourself by asking, what do I see? What do I feel? And oftentimes, a sensation will arise in your field of awareness. moving up through the knees into the thighs. Up through to the hips and pelvis. Paying close attention to how the position of the pelvis impacts your legs and your spine. Move up the spine through the abdomen and the chest, checking that the spine is not leaning and slouching. Even if you are sitting on a chair or couch, try to have the spine in its natural position, not engaged, but keep you alert and allow for you to have unrestricted breathing. Check that the shoulders are hanging loosely, not scrunched up and tight. Down through to the elbows and hands. Observing how their position also impacts your posture. And finally up to the head, checking that the head is also not leaning and slouching, chin parallel to the floor. When you're done setting up your body in a comfortable and stable position, let the body go and take 3 deep breaths. And then let the breath go. From here on in, try not to manipulate or control the breath in any way. This body has been breathing from the moment you were born. Will continue to do so until the second you die. It doesn't need you to do its job. Your job is to simply observe, investigate, and abide with the breath. As the body breathes in, the body breathes out. Do your best to lay down all your burdens, the past, the future. Lay down your burdens for the time of this meditation. Follow the breath. As you're following the breath, you will become distracted. Your mind will become bored and will seek to run away to the past or the future, across the world, the galaxy. Or an external distraction will arise and your mind will chase after that. Whenever this happens, after a while, your mindfulness will start to slowly return. You'll start to recognize that you've been taken away. At this point, acknowledge you've been taken away from the breath. Try to bring back your focus and mindfulness. Then practice letting go of the distraction by neither getting attached, excited, nor getting agitated and pushing it away. Just try to do your best to let it go. Let it be. Give it no energy, none of your effort or your attention. And then return to the breath. Whenever you are taken away, acknowledge, let go, and return over and over. Remember, whenever you're distracted away, come back to the breath. Acknowledge, let go, and return. The breath is home base. It's always there, doing its thing. Ready for you to come and follow it towards a more calm and tranquil mind. Acknowledge, let go, and return. Slowly start to open your eyes. Become aware of the room around you, the position of your body in it. Reflecting on the state of your mind now and how it was before you started the meditation. And also any experiences you might have had during the meditation, contemplating on that. We'll read a little bit of Dhammapada, and then we'll call it for the night. Let's share. Share screen. Oh, now the Magasiga chanting book shows up. Okay. This might just be my favorite section of the Dhammapada. It's definitely in the top 3. The thousands. Better than 1,000 useless words is one useful word, hearing which one attains peace. Better than 1,000 useless verses is one useful verse, hearing which one attains peace. Better than reciting 100 meaningless verses is the reciting of one verse of Dhamma, hearing which one attains peace. Though one may conquer 1,000 times 1,000 men in battle, yet he indeed is the noblest victor who conquers himself. That line is up there with hatred is never appeased by hatred for me. I love that line. It's in my early days when I was reading the Dhammapada, this line really stuck with me. Self-conquest is far better than the conquest of others. Not even a god, an angel, Mara, or Brahma can turn into defeat the victory of a person who is self-subdued and ever restrained in conduct. Though month after month for 100 years one should offer sacrifices by the thousands, yet if only for a moment one should worship those perfected minds, and that honor is indeed better than a century of sacrifice. Though for 100 years one should tend the sacrificial fires in the forest, yet if only for a moment one should worship those perfected minds, that worship is indeed better than a century of sacrifice. Whatever gifts and oblations one seeking merit might offer in this world for a whole year, all that is not worth 1/4 of the merit gained by revering the upright ones, which is truly excellent. To one ever eager to revere and serve the elders, these 4 blessings accrue: long life and beauty, happiness and power. Better it is to live one day virtuous and meditative than to live 100 years immoral and uncontrolled. Better it is to live one day wise and meditative than it is to live 100 years foolish and uncontrolled. Better it is to live one day strenuous and resolute than to live 100 years sluggish and dissipated. Better it is to live one day seeing the rising and falling of things than to live 100 years without ever seeing the rising and falling of things. Better it is to live one day seeing the deathless than to live 100 years without ever seeing the deathless. Better it is to live one day seeing the supreme truth than to live 100 years without ever seeing the supreme truth. All right, friends, let's do our closing business, share merit, and call it a night. So, friends, if you're new to Magaseka or any of my activities, um, you can find out more about all the various things I do on the website, scrolling on the bottom of the page, bottom of the screen there, maggaseka.org, MAGGASEKHA. That's my organization. In English, it's called Student of the Path. And anytime I do any kind of activity, whether it's a live stream, a video, a retreat, an article, etc., you can find it there on the website. And on the top right hand, you can put your email in, and so that every time I make a post, you will get an email notifying that I have made a post. Same thing on Facebook. If you click subscribe and then click the bell and click all, then anytime I do anything on YouTube, live stream or video, then you will get an email notification. So all of my activities are heavily based on if the location I'm at is I'm able to do it. So for instance, probably next week will be the last Dhammapalooza I do until May, because I'll be traveling and away from all streaming for all of April. But the normal schedule that I try to do when I am able to do it is Monday nights, 8 p.m. New York time, Dhammapalooza. Monday morning through Friday morning, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. morning monastery experience, which is a half-hour session that emulates doing a puja and hearing a little Dhamma talk at a monastery, which is typical in the mornings. Then also Wednesdays, I do Askabante. So I do have an Askabante. I did it this morning after morning monastery experience. So that'll be going up on Wednesday at 10 a.m. And then if you'd like to, you can check out our online community on the Discord program. This is a Maggasega community, is a community that is centered both in study and practice in the early texts, the suttas, as we've gone over today. So if that's something you're interested in, you can feel free to send an email to the email listed on the screen and then request an invite to join us. So let's do our sharing of merits. Dukkha patta chane dukkha, bhaya patta chane bhaya, soka patta chane soka, hontu sabbe pipaniyo, etavata cha mehi sampadang punya sampadang, sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya, akasata jabumata deva naga mahidika, punyang tang anumoditva charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit of ours that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share in this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddhist dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends. Well, have a good week. Sukhi Hotu, practice well and be well. May you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice until we meet again.